Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from Jimmy D. And Jimmy D has this question. Jimmy asks, how can I have a Wiccan tombstone without offending those who are not of my religion? And my answer to this begins by observing that many Wiccans prefer cremation, but by no means all. And some Wiccans, for one reason or another, would prefer to be buried, often because they would like to be buried with their family members who are in one cemetery or another, and this gives them a certain sense of continuity, and perhaps other spiritual reasons as well. If they come from a family which has a practice that includes ancestral veneration, this is also another reason they may wish to be with the other ancestors. So there certainly are Wiccans who do prefer burial, although cremation is what most would probably say they would desire. Now, if you desire to be buried, why would you be worried about whether your tombstone would offend anyone else? Well, there are two reasons. One, you might simply not wish to give offense, or you might be afraid of having your tomb desecrated. And I think that's a very reasonable concern, given today's very polarized religious climate. According to my mother, this is the reason that many figures in the early modern movement have, counterintuitively enough, aggressively Christian tombstones, even though they were not themselves Christian, because it was meant as a prophylactic device to prevent their tombs being desecrated. Whether this is true or not, I don't really know, but I've seen no reason to doubt it, because it is a real concern. Having said that, to answer Jimmy's question, how could you have an overtly Wiccan tombstone that will not offend other people? Well, there are a number of ways. The most obvious is that it would not be obvious. There are certain symbols that everybody knows are Wiccan, and there are others that are more discreet. So you might choose to do that. As an example, you could simply use the phrase "blessed be" to represent your religious affiliation. It doesn't have to be a giant pentagram on your tombstone to be a Wiccan tombstone. There are certainly things that the average person would not recognize that would still give you the satisfaction of identifying yourself as Wiccan on your tombstone. The second possible action is to be buried in a Wiccan cemetery. And many of you may say, well, there are no Wiccan cemeteries, and you would be wrong. There are a number of them. Probably the most famous is at Circle Sanctuary, but it is by no means the only one. The Church of All Worlds also has a pagan cemetery, and these are not the only alternatives. There are a number in the country, and you could make arrangements to be interred there. However, very often they favor things like green burial, which don't necessarily involve tombstones as such, but you might be able to arrange a marker or a memorial. So this would be another possibility, where you could have whatever you wanted on the marker, because it would not be in a cemetery inhabited by people of other religions. But generally speaking, there aren't actually a lot of options at this time. Those two options are the only two I really can come up with. However, I will say that times are changing. And assuming that Jimmy D is not particularly old, Jimmy may live to see the point in time when this is not even controversial. It's all a matter of how things develop and how we choose to pursue our future. So if as we go into the future we establish more Wiccan and pagan cemeteries, this will be much less of an issue in that future time. If people in ordinary non-denominational cemeteries start having more Wiccan tombstones, it would become less of an issue because people would become accustomed to it. In general, if we raise our profile in a positive way, this will become less of an issue. And it is largely a matter of taking our image into our own hands and helping people to see us as we see ourselves in a positive light. But speaking for the moment, these two things would be my suggestions. Either a tombstone that is not recognizably Wiccan to most people, but would be to other Wiccans, depending, of course, upon your background. It could be any number of different symbols that would accomplish this. Or being buried in a pagan or Wiccan cemetery, and again, there are a number here in the US, and I'm sure in other places as well. And of course, the final answer is if instead of being buried, you choose to be cremated, the whole thing is a moot point anyway. So these would be my answers to that, and once again, we've come to the end of a week of vlog questions. But this time we have a little bit more than a week, and we have a number of vlogs to choose from. And they are these. First, we have Color from Reverend Ravenwolf. Second, we have Astrology from The Wander and His Comp. Third, we have Tropical versus Sidereal from Chris Jarvis. Next, we have Dream Blocker from Reverend Laurie, Nice Clean Tools from Kristen Skelton, Mercury Retrograde from Lady Windy, Appropriate Dishes from Serapian, What Not To from Magenta, and of course today's Tombstone from Jimmy D. Please tell me which one was your favorite. You can vote in the comments section of Magic TV, on Facebook pages where the vlog appears, or you can send it to me by email to donlewishp@aol.com. And I hope you've enjoyed this week's vlog questions, and until next time, may you blessed be. Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from witchschool.com. Are you looking for the best in pagan and magical education? With more than 12,000 pages, witchschool.com is like having your own personal library with individual learning assistants to help you study. And Witchschool's Anyone, Anytime, Anywhere education system is available any place on Earth, anywhere you are and anytime you want it, as long as you have an internet connection. Witchschool's lifetime memberships are a great value. They really do last a lifetime. They've been there for years and they'll be there for years to come. So get your membership today at witchschool.com. Pray for peace. Pray for love. Pray for stability. Pray for the nation where you live. Pray for the world.